everyone, it's Grant from Spectre Racing. So I know it's been a while since we made a video, so let's get right into it. So today we're going to go over what it's like to track a Model 3 performance at a Grid Life time attack. So some background on the car. It's mostly, I've been doing a lot of autocross in it. It's set up for SCCA SS class, so not a lot can be done there. It's got the unplugged performance dampers, sway bars, stainless steel lines, brake pads, and it has SRF fluid. And that's pretty much it, aside from some 275, 35, 19 tires. So to get to this event, for me, this event was very far away. So I think round trip was a few hundred miles. So I didn't want to drive on the tires. The weather didn't look great. The Kumo V730s, which I was running, are not that great in the rain. Although the Falcon RT660s that I was running before, they were pretty good in the rain. But these were kind of new to me. I couldn't get the Falcons. So I'm running a 275, 35, 19 in that size. What I did is, because this event required, since a lot of tracker events require you have front and rear tow hooks, on the Tesla, rear tow hook's kind of a problem. You can't really do that easily without drilling into the bumper. Or, in my case, I got a stealth hitch. So with the stealth hitch, you can put a bike on there or whatever, but you can also put a hitch and put a tow hook. So since I was doing that, I bought a little basket and I toted the tires. You can actually fit 4 275, 35, 19 tires in the back seat of the Tesla, but it's kind of a pain. You have to lean over, and then you have no room in the car for basically anything. So toting the tires was a little janky, but it worked. I tested it beforehand, and no effect on the mileage, surprisingly. It was a little bit of a pain pulling into the charging spots because most of them are back in. I brought 2x4s with me because the thing did hang down a little low, and I figured it'd hit the curb. So I had to kind of get over the curb to charge the car, and that wasn't really a problem. This event was at Carolina Motorsports Park, so like I said, a few hundred miles away. The group and I, we got an Airbnb. I specifically picked this Airbnb because this location, there was no Tesla charging infrastructure within an hour of the track. So this Airbnb I booked, I saw had a dryer, and I had a NEMA 1450 10-foot extension for my NEMA 1450 plug for the mobile charger for the Tesla. This was critical because I figured at the end of the day, I'd be coming home with a low state of charge, and then you'd be able to charge the car. And a dryer plug will do about 30-something miles an hour, which at the end of the day, I was coming back with about 30% because the Airbnb was a little far away, and I was able to charge it back up to 100. And I know you're not really supposed to charge it up to 100 that often, and that was not a problem. So if you're going to an area that has, no charging infrastructure, this was critical, and it was a nice thing to have. So if you don't know anything about Grid Life is a more kind of fun-focused track event, not as super serious as some of the other ones. I really enjoyed. If you just go back on our channel and see some of the kind of scene/videos we have of what Grid Life is like, it's a lot of fun. And one of the things, before we actually get into some of the track-focused things that I learned at this event, was the taxi sessions they had. So when you're a part of the time attack group, they every day, I think it was 2 or 3 times a day, they had kind of this thing called drift versus grip. So you pull up into the line, and there's a bunch of drift cars on the right side and a bunch of time attack cars on the left side, and both sides will pick up passengers, and you just take people around to kind of see what it's like. And for me, that was really an interesting experience, being able to follow a drift car pretty close. And some of the sweepers and stuff, it was just a lot of fun being able to follow the real hardcore drift guys like that. Being someone that's gone drifting before too, it's just something unique. So the only bad thing is the car ended up being covered in rubber spots, that I had to take the clay bar to at the end of the day. So a lot of fun, definitely unique, and everyone had a blast in the car. It's funny because I pulled up to the line the first time, and they're like, "Hey, anybody want to drive in an EV?" And I'm thinking like, "Oh yeah, no one's gonna want to drive in the silent EV, and there's all these cool drift cars." And first couple of people passed, and then someone comes up, "Yeah, I'll come in." And everyone that rode with me had a blast because they were all really surprised that the EV was actually pretty fast. So, okay, so getting into the actual time attack. So for the first, the time attack was over 2 days, really. We had 3 sessions a day. There were practice rounds and qualifying rounds, but each session was about 2 to 3 hours apart. So in each session, at least at Carolina Motorsports Park, which is a very safe and a high-speed sweeper track, I was using anywhere on the low end 20%, on the high end I was using 30% per run. So it was a lot. Now I had reserved a 30 amp RV spot at Carolina Motorsports Park, which ended up being a huge mistake. But luckily I had a friend that had reserved a 50 amp spot. So what you need at these events is you definitely need the NEMA 1450, which is a standard RV 50 amp spot. And you can get the NEMA 1450 charging thing from Tesla. Now, you can get a TT30P adapter, but you have to get an EV only if you want to use the 30 amp spot. I thought the standard adapter works, but it does not. So that was a mistake I made, and the TT30P adapter actually does some kind of quasi iffy things to fool the Tesla mobile charger into thinking it's a low voltage 50 amp spot. So if you do that, may not be the safest thing in the world, but I'm not an electrician. Anyway, so as far as the hot laps, or as far as the event went, the long story short, the brakes are kind of a problem on this car. The Model 3 Performance has pretty good brakes, but braking from high speeds, they got hot quick. So doing the first day, I kind of ruined the first day, because what I was doing is the hot lap, or the warm-up lap, I was using the brakes on the warm-up lap, and that ended up being kind of a huge mistake. I guess it was good because I got to know the track. I'd never been here before. I had done some sim laps in Assetto Corsa, but basically the brakes would only last about two hot laps. And I did a video before at the firm where kind of the same thing happened, but this was kind of a different track, so I wanted to see what would happen here. So on the second day, basically I learned that coasting on the warm-up laps, basically just using regen, was a lot more effective, and I could get 3 hot laps before having to come in. So that ended up working a little bit better. Now between the sessions, like I said, I was just barely able to keep up, getting to that 80-85%, sometimes 90% if there was a delay, back to that state of charge for each session. So it was just barely. You really kind of want to be above that, I think 65% state of charge, so you don't want to start losing too much power. So like I said, the 50 amp charger, not a big deal keeping up. So some of the other downsides of the Tesla is kind of the top speed of the car. The fastest I was able to go foot to the floor, multiple straightaways, 116 miles an hour. That's it. So, I had a few friends with brand new Supras. On paper, they have much less power. But when, I'd pull out of the corner, leave them in the dust, and then they slowly creep back up and then just fly past me because the car it does not really accelerate much. Once you get to about, 80, 90 miles an hour, it's very slow to accelerate. Whereas that Supra is just flying up behind you. So with that, the overall event, I placed pretty poorly. I didn't have a lot of confidence in the brakes. It had never been to this track before. I still had a lot of fun though, so that's mostly what's most important. My main goal of this event was to get within 4 seconds of my sim time in Assetto Corsa. In Assetto Corsa, I was doing a 1:46 was my best lap. Now it is a game and it is a modified track with a modified car, but the car in Assetto Corsa was developed by Mountain Pass Performance, who makes a lot of stuff for Teslas. So it was fairly accurate, but which it kind of goes on par with some of the other sim racing that I've done, where I'm usually about 4 to 6 seconds faster in the sim than I am in real life, mostly because of fear of death. So at the end of the day, I was able to do 150, which was within 4 seconds of my Assetto Corsa time, so I was pretty happy with that. But as far as how the event was structured to get that time, basically you had two practice runs, and then you had qualifying runs. So basically you get a number, so when you get called to a false grid, they grid you up. Ironically, I think I found that being gridded at the back, I think, was more helpful because you could just kind of drive slow and then there's really no one behind you or in front of you. Uh, so that ended up helping, I think, on the second day because I was qualified kind of low. But then you had your sprint runs, and then you had if you qualified in the top 5, they had a podium top 5, and it was pretty cool. I didn't obviously make that, but being able to, they streamed that to Twitch and everything. Seeing one of my friends in a Supra get into the position number 2 was a lot of fun. And then the final day, they had a loser's bracket, so an opportunity to, place there. So some closing comments on the Tesla. I had a lot of fun at this event. The car was extremely reliable, which was the main reason why I brought it. I haven't been tracking the Mustang that much because I'll bring it, far away across the country and it'll break because it's almost a 20-year-old car at this point. Tracking the Tesla, it's just nice and reliable. The only thing I really have to worry about is the brakes. I did have to bleed the brakes at this event. Using the Castrol SRF fluid, you're supposed to be able to last about a year, but absolutely, not boiling the brakes, but absolutely heating them up to their limit at these events. I think was stressing out the fluid that I had in there was about 8 months old. But I think I still would recommend limiting the Tesla mostly to autocross. It really succeeds there just because the low end torque and low end the speed acceleration is just great for autocross. The faster the track you take this thing to, it's just not going to be able to keep up. But some of the shorter tracks, and this track was just about there. If some of those straightaways were just a little bit shorter, Tesla would just annihilate. But still had a lot of fun, and that's the most important thing. So some channel updates coming in the future. I am going to have an Rivian R1S coming here soon. I have some more Mustang videos, and I recently traveled to Canada to do an autocross, so I have some lessons learned about that. So thanks for watching.